Hey everybody, I'm Clint Walker. This is Real Estate Appraiser Secrets, and today we're going to talk about the huge opportunity you have when you're listing a unique property and there are no comps. To illustrate this, I'm going to tell you a story, maybe one of my favorite success stories in my agent career. Happened 4 or 5 years ago, before everything in this area exploded. I was working with a builder, and we wanted to build a spec house in Williamson County, in a part of Williamson County called Arrington, which is sort of in an outlying part of the county. It's not very close to an interstate. It's not very close to a lot of commercial. And my builder bought two 2-acre lots, and I bought one for myself, and we wanted to build some spec houses on them. The problem was nobody else was doing that. When they asked me what we could potentially, what we ought to build and what we could expect to get for what we were planning to build, there were no obvious comps. Williamson County had just instituted a new zoning rule where they wouldn't allow you to build on less than 5 acres if you weren't in a subdivision. These lots were grandfathered into the old zoning, so they were buildable. But 2 acres is not 5 acres. So most of my comps were on 5 acres, or most of my comps were in subdivision, and this property was going to be neither of those things. So I took the opportunity that I was given there to do some theoretical real estate pricing based on what I know as an appraiser I can do, and what I know and what I knew that the next appraiser was going to have to do when they came along to appraise my property. So if we got a buyer and they were getting a lender loan, I knew the next appraiser was going to have to find comps, first of all. And I knew they were going to have to bracket my side size. So there being no 2 or 3 acre properties around with new construction on them, I knew they were going to have to use both properties from subdivisions, which are going to be on smaller lots that are potentially less valuable than what we have. And I knew they were going to have to use properties on larger lots, but they probably wouldn't want to go bigger than 5 acres. So I knew my comps were going to come from subdivision lots and from 5 acre tracts. I also knew, though, that these appraisers would really, really like to have a new construction on 1, 2, or 3 acres, because 1, 2, and 3 acres outside of a subdivision are a unique animal. A person who wants 5 acres doesn't want 2 acres. You're not going to get like a leisure farm on 2 acres. You really can't put many animals on it. You could put some animals on it, but not. It doesn't really function the same as 5 acres. You can't mow 2 acres with the same machine as you can mow 5 acres. So it just becomes a different animal, appealing to a different buyer, and appraisers know that, or ought to know that. So I knew that appraiser was really going to want to go try to find something, and so that's what I did. I went out and I searched all of Williamson County. Conventional logic, at least in the realtor world, says that comps need to come from within 1 mile, and a lot of realtors think that an appraiser can't go more than 1 mile to find sales. That's not true at all. We can go as far as we have to go to find similar properties, as long as they would reasonably appeal to the same buyer. So knowing this, I went far and wide. I found new construction spec builds on 2 acres 17 miles away. These properties had better access to commercial and better access to the interstate, and so by those metrics they're superior. But they were the closest thing that anybody was going to find to what we were going to build, and I knew that. So I talked to my builder about it. I advised them that this is a little bit reachy to go that far to find these properties, but they're all that were available, and so it's not unreasonable. And they were fine with with relying on that to make these decisions. So I took those properties, we built the house, I put the house up for sale, and every single buyer and buyer's agent who came through, I would talk to them afterwards and I would ask them, where are y'all looking at other properties? What else have you looked at? And sure enough, almost all of them had also been looking in the development 17 miles away that I theorized would be comparable and attract the same buyer as my property. So, and it all worked out. When their lender's appraiser came through, I had this conversation with them. I gave them those comps from 17 miles away. I said to them, look, I know this sounds crazy, but I've talked to these people and they're all looking in the same place and they're all attracted to this house out here at basically the same price. I may have priced it a little bit under because I knew it wasn't quite as equal in its attractiveness to those properties that were closer to the interstate and closer to commercial. But I was still way, way higher. I'm talking like maybe 40% more expensive than subdivision new construction in that area. And I was at a price point that at that time was unproven in Arrington. So I was stretching. There was some risk, and there was a lot of real estate pricing theory that went into this. And it all worked out. The appraiser was convinced. They used my sales, the property appraised, and everything went fine. And so what I want you to know is a unique property where you feel nervous because you don't have great comparable sales or no comparable sales is not necessarily a liability to you and your sellers. I, as sort of a real estate nerd, really like to look at it as an opportunity. I've got the opportunity to prove what a buyer is willing to pay for this unique feature in this property, whether it's a site that's smaller than everything else or a site that's bigger than everything else, or some architecture that is unique, or some other physical feature there that is unique to the property. You have the opportunity to prove what a buyer's willing to pay for it. And then, because you're going to be a great agent and put this in the MLS and record it, you can, that becomes part of our historical record that everyone else gets to use to price their property, because somebody's going to have one of these again. Nothing's, typically nothing is truly unique. So look at these unique properties as an opportunity. Dig into what buyers in that area want and what they're willing to pay for. Don't be afraid to look far and wide for a comparable sale, as long as you can reasonably say that a buyer would also look at that and use that property, price it, maximize the asking potential for your client and get them the most money they can, and feel free to have a little fun with it. If you want to get an appraiser's opinion up front, that may be a great idea. But sometimes with unique properties, just by the virtue of what we're doing in an appraisal, an appraiser might not be willing to give you an appraisal on something that's truly unique, because in an appraisal, we don't do a lot of theorizing. We are in the business of proving something. And if we can't prove it, then often we can't do one of the fundamental, we can't make one of the fundamental certifications in the appraisal, which is that we've got credible data, or data to provide a credible opinion. If we can only be theorizing, we don't have, it really undermines our credibility. As an agent, though, that's where we really get to do some fun theorizing based on the economics of real estate. Knowing those economic principles is very important. I hope that you'll, do some online research, dig in, take some classes if you're not familiar with some of those principles. But don't sweat the unique property. Take it as an opportunity to do something that hasn't been done before, to prove something that hasn't been proven before, and you will impress your clients and you'll make them your fans for life. So I hope that's helpful. If I can be of service to you, find me on appraiserpool.com. We can do professional measurements, pre-listing appraisals for you, consultations, whatever you need. And I'd love it if you gave this a like and a subscribe, and have a great rest of your week. Thanks for watching.